afternoon, and welcome to AIADA's AutoTalk. AutoTalks are held the third Tuesday of each month, with a morning session at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and then again we repeat it the same session at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I am Dan Barson, your host for today's program. Before I introduce today's guest, let me review a few administrative issues. First, everyone that registered for this afternoon's program will receive a copy of today's presentation by the end of the week. If you should have any questions during today's presentation, please feel free and enter those on the bottom right side of your page under the Q&A section. It's there on the bottom right of your screen. And finally, if you could, please stay on the line after today's presentation. We have several important announcements about upcoming programming. And now let me introduce today's presenter. Nicole Ash is Vice President of Talent, Diversity, and Culture for Cox Automotive. Cox Automotive has grown to an $8 billion company and owns such recognized brands as DealerTrack, vAuto, Xtime, KBB, Vin Solutions, Dealer.com, and other brands. Nicole, welcome to the program.
Great. Thank you, Dan. That was a very nice introduction. And I always, when I hear those stats, I'm a little bit taken aback with what Dan mentioned about Cox Automotive. So I'm really proud to be here and to spend some time with you this afternoon talking about a topic that I'll bet is near and dear to your hearts. It's all about hiring top talent. So I think Dan mentioned just a couple of logistics. In the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, there is a hand that's down there at the bottom, and it will allow you to click that button and raise your hand. So I'm going to start this session with a question for you. By show of hands, how many of you think that you do a fantastic job consistently of selecting great talent for your businesses? Show of hands. How many of you guys think that? So I'm taking a look here to see how many of you are raising hands, and I'm not seeing any. So that might mean that this session is going to be very timely today. I'll take that as a thumbs up and a compliment for the fact that we're talking about the right thing. So when you think about your business today and how you get on the fast track to hiring top talent, I can imagine that a lot of things come up in your mind. So when you think about what the cost of turnover is, and you think about the rate of turnover in your dealership, you know that making a hiring mistake or hiring the wrong person can be a really, really costly mistake. It's easy to say, hey, you know what, I've got this opening and I need to fill it. I need to get someone in quickly. I need to make sure that I have this sales position filled or this position for an office manager filled or receptionist. What is the cost when you don't fill those roles and fill them quickly? Turnover can cost hundreds of thousands of dollars a year in lost revenue, but more than that, it's all about your image. So you guys recognize that your image in the marketplace is huge. And if you have constant turnover, then do you have the right employees who are facing your clients? Those are the questions that I think we have to ask ourselves. So if you have 55 employees, it can cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars a year in searching for the right talent and getting them trained and up to speed and ready to function in their roles in your dealership. So you know that's expensive. So when you think about what it takes to recruit and really retain top talent, you've got to have a great process. So when you stop and think about what your process is for attracting talent and retaining talent, I'm going to ask you to take a step back and think about what you think people are looking for when they consider your business as a place to work. People have a ton of choices today, and they want to be able to enjoy, great pay. Oftentimes, they want to think about a place that will offer them great hours. And, of course, that means different things for different people based on what they're looking for. But more than anything, studies show that people are looking for opportunities where they have the ability to grow and learn. And all of those things ultimately are connected back to pay and things like great hours. Because if you've got career growth opportunities and the higher you move in the chain, the more dollars you're going to earn. and probably the better scheduling you're going to have and the better hours and the more work-life balance you may end up having potentially. So you've got to have the ability to allow your employees to see a path for growth, and you, as the hiring manager, are responsible for painting that picture for employees that you're getting ready to hire and employees that you've already got on your team. So when you think about that and you think about your hiring practices, I'm going to ask you to ask yourself, what is your real process around hiring? I think when I talk with a lot of colleagues, there are leaders who frequently say, Nicole, you know what? I've got a canned set of questions. I ask those interview questions every time I interview somebody. I never change them. They're tried and true. They work every time. So my challenge back to you is, do you have a canned set of questions, or do you take the time to ask candidates questions that really allow you to understand who that individual is and whether they really are going to fit into your job role? So take a minute and think about the interview questions that you've been asked throughout your career. Sometimes those interview questions are very general, and I can think of one right off the top of my head. The first one is, tell me about yourself. Tell me a little bit about what you've done in your career. So you get an individual in front of you who sort of stumbles around through their various pieces of experience. Oftentimes there's some connection in, hey, I started my career here, after that I went and did this, and now I'm here. But oftentimes people have trouble connecting their story when asked just a very generic question like, tell me about yourself or tell me what you've done in your career. If you don't have a uniform sort of process around how you make selections and how you select talent, sometimes you might find yourself being impulsive, going with your gut, listening to a little bit of what they say, but feeling the desperation of getting the position filled and not really asking the questions that you want to know the answers to. So I'm going to ask you how comfortable you are with making decisions in the moment. So some of the questions that I think can be key to ask people are things like, tell me about a time when you had some really difficult goals that you had to meet. What are some of the things that you did to achieve those goals? Tell me about how that worked out for you and what ended up happening in the end. Those are questions that give people the ability to think about the situation, what they did, and then the results. So you can get a lot of information about an individual by determining whether they have the ability to connect their thoughts, communicate clearly, and to answer maybe a complex question. Another creative question when you're thinking about your, hiring practices and how you go down from a group of people to selecting one person is, if you're hiring somebody in sales, what if you asked them a question like, hey, you know what, I'd love to hear your sales pitch. Why don't you give me your sales pitch as if you were already in the role? What are some of the things that you'd say to me in order to get me to buy on the spot? That gives people an opportunity to show you in the moment how they can craft a message on the fly and how they can compel you to do something if they were really in the job role. So think about some of those opportunities that are unique and different and that get you out of that space of asking the same old questions like, tell me about yourself, and they might give you some insight into how employees are really thinking. And there's one thing I can guarantee you after 24 years of experience in human resources, and I've interviewed what I'd say are probably thousands of candidates, is that the more you get someone talking to you, the more information you find out about them. So you start out with some of those softball questions to get them settled in a little bit, talk with them a little bit about how they ended up finding this job opportunity, what interests them about your business, and then go in with some of these questions that I've mentioned. I guarantee you by the time you get them comfortable, you will have learned more about them than you would have if you stuck to your canned questions. So that's just something to think about. So good hiring practices involve not including every single person and ending up with 6 or 7 or 8 or 10 candidates, but really getting very selective about what you're looking for and tailoring your questions to make sure that you're identifying talent that really meets your needs. So think about your hiring practices when you think about what you're doing in your dealerships to identify and select top talent. When you're disciplined about the way you hire and when you're disciplined about the culture that you want to create in your dealership, you'll have a thriving business that will attract lots of employees who want to work for you. So the next thing is, what are some of the ways that you find the best talent? Everybody on the phone knows today that we live in a world of social media, right? So everything gets a like or a thumbs up or a thumbs down or a perspective or an overview, a complaint, a compliment. We live in a world where there's a reaction to everything. So social media is prevalent, and we shouldn't run away from it. We should absolutely embrace social media as a tool for locating top talent. And I'm going to say particularly early career talent. So if you're looking for employees who are going to bring young and fresh and new perspective to your workplace, then embracing social media and finding them where they are is probably going to be one of the most important tools for finding top talent. So if you're not using social media today, I encourage you to think about ways that you can do that. One of the most creative things is if you're looking to hire a number of different people, 5 or 6, roles maybe at one time, or even if you're looking just to target a couple of really key roles, there isn't any reason why you can't post that opportunity on social media, see what sort of reaction you get, and have people come in to interview and vie for those positions. It's a great way to see what's out there and to attract talent that you might not find in other places. Also, narrow down your candidate pool to 4 or 5 people and then push yourself to really decide what you're looking for. And if you're like me, that can be hard. When you're seeking perfection, it's like, gosh, I wish they had this or I wish they had that. But stack rank the things that are most important to you about a person in this role. So if it's having somebody who has the ability to connect easily with people in the moment, stack rank that as one of the number 1 qualities you're looking for in a candidate and test that out. If it's all about somebody being able to drive for results and execute, ask questions and provide scenarios that will allow you to validate that a person can do that. So narrow your candidate pool. And then engage other people in helping you to make the decision. So one of the things that I was teased about probably more often than anything else was, Nicole, why do you believe in this idea of a panel interview? Why do you think that it takes multiple people to make a decision? And my answer to that is that my perspective on somebody is not the only perspective. So if I have trusted managers and other leaders around me who can help me make a good hiring decision, why not involve them? Why not get somebody else involved in the process who can give me a fair and balanced opinion about a candidate, knowing what will be successful in your dealership? Engage somebody else to help you with the process. Rank and select the 2 finalists that you have once you get down past your pool of 4 or 5 and make a choice between those 2 individuals. Vet your finalists thoroughly. So don't view the idea of checking their references and really asking all the questions and doing your due diligence. Don't minimize that. That's very, very important. So take the time to vet your finalists thoroughly. And then lastly, this one might make you laugh. You've got to sell yourself. So I know it's about candidates wanting to come and work for you, and you want to be able to choose them. But you know what? Just like with everything else, people have a million choices today. Just like they have a million choices in where to shop for their next automobile, they have a million choices around who they want to work for. So a part of the obligation is on you to sell yourself and the value of your job role to potential candidates so they want to come work for you. So these are some of the ways that you find and select the best. Or you can also think about what's the potential in growing them yourself. So, yeah, you can go out and search the marketplace and scrub and find, I call it looking for shiny pennies. There are lots of shiny pennies that are out there, probably just all over the place that you can pick up off of the sidewalk. But you might have that shiny penny right in your pocket. So have you thought about, investing in ongoing learning for some of your current employees or team members who are doing a fantastic job and who have a ton of potential, and that you need to coach and develop in order to help them be ready for the next step? Also, get creative. Work with high schools, technical schools, and colleges to recruit top talent and provide opportunities for learning, like internships and opportunities for them to shadow at your dealership or in your business, so that you can identify individuals who are interested and who would be qualified to be potentially apprentices, and who could work to learn your business if you gave them an opportunity. So it's not always about going outside, but it's taking a good hard look internally to see what you might have already available that you just need to work with and coach and develop. So don't overlook your current team members, and don't not consider the opportunity to get creative with how you find talent. And then there's this topic of new hire training. So I'm sure you all know that the first day that anybody starts a new job is a pretty big day. If you've selected top talent and they make it to the time where you've made the offer and they're coming in for their first day, that's probably a pretty exciting day. You stop and think about a time where you've started in a new job role and think about how you felt. You probably selected your outfit. What am I going to wear? How am I going to make a great first impression? Who am I going to meet? What's my first day going to be like? So one of the things I encourage you to do is think about what that new hire training experience is going to be like for your new employee, and don't get too far away from that. I think sometimes as leaders, we trust that those things are going to happen and everything's going to work out great, but shepherding that new hire process as a manager, a leader, is really important. So help define the skills that you want new hires to have. Be really clear about their objectives. So saying things like, welcome to the team. Let me tell you what success looks like in the first 30 days. I'd like to see you be able to greet customers effectively. I'd like to see you be able to meet your minimum numbers that are a part of your scorecard. I'd like to see you build relationships within the team and within your peer group. And so over the next 30 days, I'm going to meet with you one-on-one to make sure those things are happening. When you're that clear with new employees about what your expectations are, they're more likely to be able to meet those expectations than if you leave that to chance. So also identify your sales process and really teach it to them. Here's some of the things we've learned, you could say, in our environment. Here's some of the things we know work. So we'd like to see you practice and try those things to see about how quickly you can drive success. And make sure that managers spend time with all new hires. It's really easy, and it's human nature to spend time with employees that you might connect with or that you might feel like, hey, this is going to be my, strongest candidate, and not pay attention maybe to ones that you don't have that connection with. Spend time with all of your new hires so that you can make sure that you're helping the entire group to be successful. And then when you think about how much time we spend at work, I'll give you an opportunity to stop and think about how many hours you spend at work versus how many hours and how much time you spend at home with your families. So I'm going to tell you, I think about that on a daily basis, and I'm still working to drive work-life balance. We all know that we likely spend more time at work than we do with our families, which is amazing. So if you do that, then you need to think about how to create a positive work environment. That doesn't mean that everybody's standing around playing ping pong, or you've got the popcorn going and you all are standing around at the popcorn machine or drinking the water that's in the cooler for the clients or for your customers. But it does mean that there's a really supportive environment where you work with people who've got your back and who ultimately want you to be successful, and that there is no singular success. So if one individual is successful, but the dealership overall is not making its numbers, then nobody's successful. If one person in your service area is doing a bang-up job and they're amazing, but the rest of the group is not up to par, then nobody's doing a great job. So teaching fundamentals as a leader about what success looks like and that it's shared success and we win together is a big part of creating a positive work environment. You may also want to consider developing a mentoring program. So as a new person, again, if you put yourself in the shoes of that individual, and because for you, you may not have been new in a very long time, think about what it's like to be a new person walking in the door or to be a long-time employee who might need to be re-energized or re-motivated. Develop a mentoring program where employees can work together with someone else that they might be able to go to and confide in, ask questions of, get advice from, so that they can continue doing a great job. Learning doesn't always come through one person. You can learn from many different people, including a strong mentor. And then don't overlook rewarding top performance. People who are achieving great results are working hard to do so. So how you recognize and reward top performance becomes really, really critical. Ultimately, as human beings, we want to know we're doing a great job. And that comes in a lot of different forms. So I'm going to say as a manager or a leader, one of our jobs is to make sure that we know how to motivate our team members, our employees individually. So maybe one likes public recognition and they want to be called out for doing a great job. Maybe another person really appreciates being told privately, hey, that was a big win. You did a great job. Maybe people prefer monetary awards and they want the opportunity to be recognized with dollars and cents. Or maybe people just want more time off because they don't have the ability to do much of that. So think about your team members and your employees individually and not always collectively, and do things for them to reward performance that matter to them specifically. So also the idea around continuous development. This is one of the things I think sometimes that gets missed, right? So you get into this rhythm, everybody's doing a great job potentially, and there isn't this real thought around how do I continue to help my team members grow? So one of the questions that I got beforehand was a question about, hey, I've hired a bunch of great employees and a bunch of great team members. Now how do I keep them? Well, the way that you keep them is to show them that there's a path towards success. If they don't know clearly what the next step could be for them and where you envision them in that process, why would they stay? So a lot of people ask, Nicole, is it okay to tell somebody that they're high potential or that they're top talent? The answer to that question is a resounding yes. You should tell them often and in a way that really resonates with them that they're doing a great job and that you view them as a person who you want to be your successor, who you see leading one of the groups in your dealership, who you see being elevated to the next role. And if you can tell them a time frame, it's even better. Because I'm going to say our early career talent or millennials are really interested in how quickly can I move forward. There's little patience for what I would call sort of generational fortitude that says, hey, you know what, I'm going to be here for the long term. I'm looking at 3 to 5 years, what's going to happen for me in that period of time. Your millennials are looking for what's going to happen in 3 to 5 months. So if you can't tell them and show them a path towards true succession and true progression, you run the risk of having that talent walk away after you've trained them and invested in their growth and development, having them walk away to the next dealership that can show them how they can continue to develop. Provide effective coaching. So don't be afraid to be open, honest, and direct and say to somebody, you know what? You disappointed me this time. I was hoping that you were going to really go for and fill in the blank, or I was really hoping you were going to drive X results, and I didn't see you do that in the way that I had planned. What happened there, and how can I help you do better next time? Be really clear when somebody hasn't met your expectations, but also be ready to pour on the praise when they've done a great job and they've exceeded what you expected them to do. Also, the idea of implementing cross-training so that you never get yourself into a situation where there's a single point of knowledge or what sometimes is referred to as a single point of failure. If you only have one person who knows how to do something exceptionally well, you're missing an opportunity. So provide cross-training for employees so that they can learn multiple facets of your dealership and they can become a true utility player for you so that you can plug and play them in ways that make sense for their strengths. And then provide leadership development. A lot of people, if you ask them what they aspire to be, what do you think the word is? I want to be a manager. I want to be a leader. So if you're having frequent coaching conversations with your team members and your employees, you should be asking them, hey, Nicole, what do you see yourself doing next? What's in your future? What would you like to do in our business that, maybe is aspirational for you? And how can I help you get there? If somebody says to you, I want to be a leader in your organization, it really becomes our responsibility to make sure that we're helping them to get to that next step and to become a leader if you truly feel like they have the qualities that will be consistent with that role. And if they're not demonstrating them today, how do you guide them towards gaining those skills in the future so that they're ready when you're ready for that promotion to happen? So, in review, let's take a step back and talk about what we've learned today, and hopefully there have been some great takeaways for you. Let's talk about how we get on that fast track to hiring and retaining talented team members or employees that you really need in your business. So step number one is to really have some great hiring practices. So how you select top talent becomes really important. Where do you advertise? Where do you find people that fit the criteria that you're looking for? Maybe it means embracing social media. Maybe it means getting creative and doing a hiring blitz where you have people come on site and interview for multiple roles. Also, maybe it means you get really non-traditional in your interview questions and get away from those canned questions that don't give you any insight into what type of person you're getting. So when you ask somebody a really creative question like, tell me about some of the relationships that you've built with your peers and your leaders in jobs that you've worked in the past. How did you do that? What were some of the methods that you used? That'll give you way more insight into what a person's all about. If you ask somebody a question like, especially if you're asking them to perform in a role that has a lot of deadlines or that's really execution focused, in your mind, Nicole, is it better to be perfect and a little bit late on a deliverable, or do a really good job, pretty good job, and deliver it on time? That will give you a ton of insight into what a person values, and it depends on what your answer is to that question. Maybe you do want it to be perfect and you're okay with them being a little bit late on a deadline, or maybe you want to tell them, you know what, here at our dealership, we believe that 80% of a deliverable is best, and then we can iterate over time. So making the deadline is more important than it being perfect. So you've got to invest a little bit of time in that legwork on the front end to make sure you're asking the right questions. Your new hire training program, don't minimize the importance of onboarding employees and team members in a way that makes them want to stay. You can't ever recreate that first impression. So recognize that that sticks, and more than 50% of employees make their decision about whether they've made the right choice within the first 2 days of employment. So if you don't catch them and grab them by their heads and their hearts really strongly, they may decide to leave within that first critical short-term period. And if you keep them past 90 days, the likelihood goes up by more than 50%, that you'll be able to retain them for at least 12 months. Amazing stats, so things to think about. Creating a really positive environment, and it doesn't mean not being firm. You can be firm about your goals, your expectations, the requirements, but you can also create a fun environment where people love coming to work and they enjoy working for you. And then create a model for continuous improvement. So ongoing learning, ongoing building expectations so that you are clear that you expect them to continue to get better, and giving them clear, honest feedback about how they're doing, what they're doing well, and where they need to focus so that they can continue to improve, learn, and grow. So I have spent the whole time talking, and it sounds like Dan is maybe ready to tell me that I might be at time, but I do want to open up the floor for any questions that you might have about what we've talked about today.
Nicole, I really want to thank you for taking time out of your schedule this afternoon. This was really outstanding material, especially around the statistics and how important it is to set the right image for the department and the organization within that first 2 days with that new employee. Just some really important stuff. We can't thank you enough for taking time out today.
Absolutely. It's been my pleasure, and I'll give a parting gift for you all to be able to send to all that joined our session this afternoon. I've got a one-pager that I'll share with you that you can send electronically to those who participated. In addition to the slides in the deck, there's a one-pager that summarizes everything that we covered, and so some people may want to access it on their mobile devices, or you may want to print a hard copy and tack it up in your office or in your cubicle so that you can refer to some of the main points that we discussed today. So that will be my, hopefully it's a gift for you so that you can keep the ideas that we talked about today top of mind.
Great. Thank you so much. To the audience, let me give you a bit of a preview. If you could stay on real quick about some upcoming programming. Our next AutoTalk is scheduled for May 23rd. We are confirming a speaker today. Please mark your calendar for the June program, June the 20th. We are excited to have Erin Kerrigan of Kerrigan Advisors. She publishes the editions of the Blue Sky Report. The Blue Sky Report is a leading industry publication that analyzes auto dealers' buy-sells, the market around the buy-sells, how much franchises are bringing. She is going to share with us the latest edition, which will be which will come out in June, and that'll be for the second quarter of 2017. So don't miss that. That should be just an outstanding presentation. Also, mark your calendars for July the 18th. We're going to have two gentlemen join us back. They were with us last year about this time. Mike Rossman and Bob Grill. Carfax will be presenting this presentation, and these gentlemen did one on the used car free fall, and we are going to revisit that topic. There's a lot of large leasing volume that's coming back through the lanes. There is concern on exactly where the used car market is going. If sales are flat, are going to remain pretty robust. Where is CPO going? And what do we expect on the wholesale side of the business there? So please mark your calendar for that outstanding presentation, July the 18th. Again, we're going to have two sessions, one at 10 a.m., repeating that again at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thanks so much for joining us. Look for a copy of today's presentation. That'll come via email before the end of the week. And again, thank you for your continued support. Have a great rest of the week and end of the month, and good selling out there. Thank you.
Dan?
Yeah.
So sorry if there were a couple of questions. If we have, 2 minutes, I'm happy to address them, or I can address them in writing. One was a great question from Sandy, and another was from Robert. How would you like for me to handle those questions? Do we have a moment, or shall I send a written response?
Absolutely. Let's go ahead and we still have a number of people on the phone, Nicole. Let's go ahead and do that, and we'll also send them out written just to make sure we didn't miss them.
Okay, so perfect. So Robert asked about whether we'll send the PowerPoint, and I think you've already answered that. The answer is absolutely yes, Robert. I'm happy to share that along with the one-pager that you'll be able to use. And Sandy's question was about those statistics that I mentioned. So new team members or new employees who join an organization as a new hire, within that first 2 days, they're making a decision, a stay-go decision. So they're in their minds thinking, did I join the right organization? Is this going to be the right place for me? And if you can capture their hearts within that first couple of days, get them to therefore stay for 90 days, you have a 50% greater likelihood that they're going to stay with your organization for 12 months or more. So those are pretty powerful stats. And, those are things that we can't really overlook because, it's expensive to, select talent, train them, get them well prepared, only for them to walk away and potentially go somewhere else. So don't forget about that 2 days, the 90-day mark, in order to get you to a year or more. Does that make sense? I hope I answered Cindy's question.
Good stuff, Nicole.
And I'm sorry, the group's telling me I've got one more question if we've got time. Let me just make sure I can see what the question is.
Absolutely.
So the question is, do I have a best practice for new hire training, and if so, what is that best practice? So the best practice is having something organized. As you guys know, one of the most disappointing things is to walk into any new job and to feel like nobody was prepared for your first day. So to be able to welcome that new person, to be able to call them by name, to have a place for them to sit and reside if that's appropriate in your dealership, to have some prepared materials and a prepared agenda for them for the day are some very good ways to get them off to a great start. Also, if your practice is to provide on-the-job training, to be able to pair them with somebody who's going to be able to walk them through their first couple of days or first week in order to get them acclimated. And I'm going to tell you, one of the things that seems like it's not a big deal, but it's very important, is giving them somebody to take them to lunch on their very first day or to sit and have lunch with them. Again, it goes to that welcoming, friendly, open environment, and it shows that you were looking forward to their arrival and you value them as a new member of your team. So some of those are some of the most important, basic, best practices. Also, what I mentioned about setting clear objectives. What does success look like and how can I achieve it? And doing it in small bites. So in the first 30 days, I'm expecting you to be able to do X successfully. By 60 days, I'd like to see you have progressed to this point, and 90 days, here's what I'm looking for. Those are some things that you can do to ensure early success. So again, thank you so much for your time. It was my pleasure spending the afternoon with you, and I'll send you the materials and the content, and I'm also happy to share my contact information in case you have follow-up questions or if there's anything else I can do to help.
That's great, Nicole. Listen, again, thank you so much for sharing best practice, and we know you're busy. You have a lot of business units that you're responsible for, and again, we can't thank you enough for your time today.
Thank you so much. My pleasure. Have a great week, everybody.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now.